Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome to the Goal Line Hockey Podcast. It's your boy Kevin Forte. Episode number 8, ladies and gentlemen. We are up to episode number 8 of the Goal Line Hockey Podcast. It's been a successful so far, and we are officially 2 months into this trial run of the Goal Line Hockey Podcast. It's been pretty solid, I would say. And I've definitely been seeing some more traction on the YouTube channel, so I think it's working. So I appreciate you guys watching these videos. I'm going to try something different this week, as what I'm going to do is I'm going to post the regular podcast like I do every Thursday. But what I'm going to do is during the week, topics that I talk about, instead of talking them over again in a separate video during the week, I will put everything into whatever I talk about in this podcast will become videos during the week. So if you want to see just segments of the podcast, you can do that. And instead of trying to fit in everybody's screenshot of the comments, I'm just going to go off the comments, read all the comments, and then at the end, I will give a shout out to the people that I mentioned with a list of the commenters at the end of the video, just to give you guys a little plug. So we got some things to talk about this week, much more than the last 2 weeks, which have been, to be honest, pretty quiet. The San Jose Sharks released a 30th anniversary jersey. Not going to lie, I like it more than their reverse retro. The season, Gary Bettman. Gotta love him, right? It looks like the NHL season could be pushed back to now mid-January. Is it still January 13th, or is it sometime later? Now that January 13th start date, as we get closer and closer to the end of 2020, that date seems to be getting pushed back again, and we're going to be answering your guys' questions from the YouTube comment section as well. So stay tuned. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Make sure to check this out on our Patreon. Guys, I've been so bad. I've not been posting on the Patreon. That is my fault. I'm going to be posting on the Patreon hopefully next week. As we get into the new year, that is one of my things that I'm going to be making a big push. The Instagram and Twitter handles, I've been starting to get more into that to grow the channel, because in the beginning of the year I was very active on Instagram and on Twitter, and I was actually gaining some traction, and I think it helped out the channel. I kind of stepped away from that, and I think it's been hurting the channel. So it's one more avenue that I'm looking to step up our game, build the empire here at Goal Line Hockey, and get us to 1K hopefully by the end of probably not by the end of this year, if I'm going to be completely realistic, but hopefully sometime in the beginning of 2021. So we're going to start things off looking at the San Jose Sharks jersey, and this thing is beautiful. The Sharks and the SAP partner to commemorate 30th anniversary season, and this is the statement from the San Jose Sharks. Announced today plans to commemorate the team's 30th anniversary season included in the celebration. Additionally, the Sharks will bring back their heritage jerseys to be worn on select heritage theme nights presented by SAP that will take place throughout the season. Other elements of the celebration include honoring Sharks fans' favorite players from each decade, a 30th anniversary video content series featuring highlights, as well as content from the team's history featuring fan favorite Shark players from throughout the team's existence, and much more. Like anniversary marks from previous Sharks milestone celebrations, the 30th anniversary logo reflects the team's heritage and unique history, blah blah blah. The logo was influenced by the classic Art Deco inspired font and crest, as well as the team's historic gray and modern teal colors. Fans will see the 30th anniversary logo worn on players' jerseys throughout the season, as well as incorporated and obviously in merchandise, specialty content, and experiences throughout the season. The logo will also be displayed at center ice at SAP Center at San Jose, which that's pretty cool. Additionally, the Sharks will bring back their heritage jersey to celebrate the anniversary. We talked about that already. Other elements in the Shark celebration, a celebration of teams from the 90s, the early 2000s, and the 2010s that highlight the Sharks' greatest players from each decade, 30th anniversary video content series, activations with fan favorite Sharks players, and more content celebrating the team's history. So this is all just PR stuff by the San Jose Sharks. But guys, looking at that jersey, guys, this thing is a beaut. A beautiful jersey for the Sharks. And like I mentioned in the beginning, I like it better than the reverse retro. I'm not a fan of the gray with that reverse retro. I don't know what it is. I'm a sucker for the teal jerseys. And I sit here saying that as this is the only Sharks jersey I have, and it's a full black jersey. But I do really like the teal. I really think the teal fits the Sharks so well. And it just really stands out from the rest of the league. And to have a gray jersey, I think really diminishes the opportunity. But obviously they're releasing this jersey, so I can't complain too much. If I were to pick out a Sharks jersey between the two, it would definitely be this teal 30th anniversary because I just like the coloring better. It's just a cleaner looking jersey. But guys, let me know in the comments down below. Do you like the reverse retro jersey or the 30th anniversary for the Sharks better? All right, so we have obviously some more drama around the 2021 NHL season. We just cannot, the NHL can't get their shit together, it seems like. And the January 13th date, the date that's currently being reported, is again in question. We are focused on starting at some point, hopefully in mid-January, according to Gary Bettman. It is clear that we will not be playing an 82-game schedule for the regular season, which we normally do, but we're going to try and play as many games as possible. While the number of games in the 2020-2021 season remains up in the air, so too does the location of many of those matchups. And this is according to Gary Bettman. Right now, we're focused on whether or not we're going to play in our buildings and do some limited traveling or play in a bubble. And that's something we're working on and getting medical advice on. Bettman also said, we don't think we can conduct an entire regular season the way we did the playoffs last year. And that's just a given. The players being away from their family that long, we saw how that affected last season. We saw how that's affected other sports like college football has been a big factor with that. They've had no contact with their families, and it's tough. It's tough, and these guys are without their family for a long time, and really they're just kind of isolated on a bubble. They let alone see their family, they can't go out anywhere. So it's a really tough situation for the NHL. The NHL players, and obviously this whole thing with the regulations between Canada and the United States, things are buckling even more in the States right now, which just makes things more difficult. And some other news, which is a little bit more exciting on this front, the NHL, depending on the regulations of the local legislation or the local governments, the NHL may have fans in the stadiums this year. Now, we've also been hearing that this could have something to do with the bubble situation. If they go to Newark, more than likely, being that close to New York, we're going to see very tight regulations, and the NHL will probably not see any fans in Newark or New York this season. But again, it seems like everything's up in the air. Depends on these vaccinations and stuff like that. There's so much involved in this. And then comes the question, once this vaccination rolls out, I don't want to get too involved in this, but how many people are going to take the vaccination? How many people are comfortable with it? And is that going to really, this vaccination being out, is that really going to have an impact on what we end up seeing this year? I think that's something that people aren't really considering. Maybe they should be. But I think there's a lot at play still. The NHL obviously will make more money if there's fans in the stadium. But again, with so many, things outside of the NHL's control, we just don't know yet. It seems like the NHL has backed off on its renegotiations of the CBA, realizing the players are not really fazed by that. They're like, all right, we just won't play next season. I mean, it doesn't really matter. So we're seeing that the NHL's bluff, obviously, to try and push that agreement back, it did not work. And the PR they got from the fans obviously didn't help the NHL either. Again, there's just so much at play. I really hope we see the season get going. Once guys get into training camp, and once we see things rolling here at the end of the year, it's going to be a little bit more comforting. But at this point, everything is still very rocky. We've seen players start to go back to their buildings. We saw Roman Josi and that freaking flow he has, almost as good as mine. But Roman Josi back on the ice down there in Nashville. So it's good to see that happening around the league. Obviously, Ovechkin, we saw him. Matthews and McDavid have been skating together, which is pretty cool. So it's good news around the league. But again, there's still so much in the air. Elliot Friedman said potential hubs could be Columbus, Newark, Vegas, and Edmonton or Toronto. But as Bettman indicated, not permanent bubbles as we saw last season. And obviously, there's still the situation with the St. Louis Blues and the Minnesota Wild. If they play on the West Coast, playing with the teams like the Anaheim Ducks, the LA Kings, the San Jose Sharks, the Coyotes, the Golden Knights, they're kind of out on an island in the Midwest. So do they, potentially move to Vegas and they play all their games in Vegas, just Minnesota and St. Louis? So they're obviously less travel and back and forth. We could see that be a scenario. So guys, let me know your comments on that. Do you think we could see, certain teams have to move to a bubble? Obviously, a team like Columbus, maybe instead of Nashville being down there or Dallas, maybe they move up to Columbus, so they're not traveling from Dallas to Detroit and Dallas to Columbus and Dallas to Chicago or whatever it is. We could see that be a scenario. And obviously for Edmonton, Toronto, that's for the Canadian division. And that could make sense because maybe what they do is they have the three Western Canadian teams in Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver for the first half of the season. They play half the season in Toronto as their home games. And the second half of the season, we see Ottawa, Toronto, and Montreal. They move to, say, Vancouver or Edmonton for the second half of the season. So that way, obviously, it's split a little bit more, and a bunch of teams are not stuck on a certain coast away from their families for so long. Again, there's so many different things you could look at. The realignment of the division seems like that's been changing every couple days. So even that, we don't really know. Like they're saying, it looks like a 46-game season. I've heard a 56-game season, a 52-game season. We don't know yet. So obviously, hopefully we get some clarity here because, guys, January 13th is, believe it or not, 3 weeks away. We are not that far away from that. Maybe 4 weeks away. But at this point, it's getting too close. And training camp is right around the corner. And the NHL is still kind of buckling here and doesn't really have their shit together. So we'll see what happens on that front. Now, in some other news, let's take a look at this hockey news article. And this is just quick before I get into your guys' comments. They basically talk about how we could see a shakeup in the trade market for this season. And the article is why 2020. Now, this is something one of you mentioned in the comments section. Why are they calling this the 2020-2021 NHL season? No games will be played in 2020. We do realize that, right? So, I don't know what that's all about. It's the 2021 NHL season. That's it. All right? I don't know what's so hard to figure out with this. So basically, the article is the strangest season for trades in NHL history. And basically, they go into they talk about how we could see, trades are going to be interesting this year because when guys get traded, now, their bubble, the team that they're in that bubble with makes things a little bit more tough because now, let's say a New Jersey Devil gets traded. Now, if he stays in that division, that bubble stays somewhat contained because they're all playing each other. Okay, that's fine. But now let's say he gets traded to the Nashville Predators. That's in the Central Division bubble, a player now moving into another division. That's just one player. Let's talk about players going back and forth and all that stuff. Is there a scenario where we see the NHL say no trades this year? Or you can only trade in your division, which creates issues because now, let's say you're the New York Islanders. Now you're limited to only trading with teams in your division. Do you really want to make trades to possibly better teams that you are competing for the playoffs this season? Probably not. Because we see most teams around the league do not want to trade in their division. Do the Islanders want to trade with the Rangers or the Flyers or the Devils or the Penguins or the Flyers? Probably not. So there's going to be some, I think the NHL, we're talking about just the schedule and when the season's going to begin. But what about trades and roster management? That's all going to be discussed because there's just, and let alone the taxi situation, players between the NHL and the AHL. There's just so much that the NHL has to figure out in a short amount of time. But the question is, are they going to get it done? I don't really know. So with that, we're going to answer some of your guys' questions from this week's YouTube comment section. Actually, before I get into that, guys, I do want to mention real quick, last week's video, I made a video earlier this week talking about Braden Holtby and his situation with the Washington Capital. Not the Washington Capitals anymore. He's up in Vancouver. And it's been one of my most trafficked videos in a short amount of time, pretty much this year for 2020. It's got almost 300 views already within a day, which is obviously, thank you guys for watching that video, but it's also gotten some heat. Obviously, there's been a lot of unrest in our country, in North America, between Canada and the United States. Listen, guys, I don't know if you realize, but I am very much a traditionalist in the sense that I think people get a little bit too sensitive about certain things, and at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter. You can't just because someone doesn't agree. This is it. I'm gonna leave it at this. If you don't agree with someone, that doesn't make them wrong. You just have a disagreement. It doesn't mean one of you's right or wrong. That's just your opinion. And if you get upset about somebody's opinion, you probably shouldn't be online. And I hate to say it, you should probably just get off the internet and just cut the cord. Because if you get upset about, honestly, I looked back at my video and I didn't even say anything. It's just my situation. Who I am, I'm going to get targeted because I'm not that type of person to have a say. So it doesn't matter what I say. Even if I agreed with them, it wouldn't even matter. It's because of what I look like. So technically, that's, if you want to talk about profiling somebody just because of how I look, you're basically admitting the point that you're trying to make. So I don't really understand how that works, but I do appreciate you guys. Obviously, you don't have to defend me in the comment section, guys. I do appreciate that. But obviously, once it gets a little bit heated and there's gunshots being fired back and forth, obviously it gets to a certain point where it's a little bit too much. But I do appreciate you guys sticking up for me, sticking up for the fans here at Goal Line Hockey. We're all one group. We're just here to talk about hockey, guys. All right, the fact everything has to get, political or whatever other stuff, it's just ridiculous. So I do appreciate you guys sticking around. I really don't want to talk much about this kind of stuff on my channel, but it's hockey news, so I'm going to talk about it. But I do appreciate you guys. Obviously, the support on the channel has been amazing. We're almost at 1K subscribers, and I'm all-inclusive, guys. I don't care if you're white, you're black, you're a woman. I don't really care what you are. We're just here to talk about hockey, and the fact that we get involved in this stuff, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And now, I consider it, what? You haven't made it until you have haters, and not going to say that I've made it yet, but obviously there's some hate there, so it's all right. Their 18 subscribers can say whatever they want about me. Obviously they don't have much clout, so I don't really know where they're coming from, but to each their own. That's what the internet's for, is to let your opinion be heard, and that's just the way it is. So all right, so anyway, guys, with that out of the way, let's take a look at this week's YouTube comments. So we're going to start things off with, all right, so I'm going to avoid this Braden Holtby stuff because a lot of you talk about snowflakes and whatever crap. I really don't care. We're just going to avoid that topic this week. But my boy, Ali Dej, I got to give it to him. Yo! I know that's why he puts it in there. What's going on, Kevin? It's your boy, Ali. It's the Sens. Obviously, Melnick guaranteed we'd win within the next 5 years. Grinding teeth. And then he said, I swear to God, Kevin, if you say the Leafs, I'm unsubbing. No, bro. No. The Leafs, I think the Vancouver Canucks have a better chance of winning the Stanley Cup than the Maple Leafs. And honestly, I like what the Leafs have done. I did not realize how much turnover there's been in that blue line. But now my next concern is Freddie Anderson the right goaltender? That's the next question for the Leafs. We're going to find out this season, right? But I do like the change they made on the blue line. And yeah, I don't know, Ali Dash. I don't know if the Sens are going to win the Cup this year or the next team to win that Cup there in Ottawa. But they're definitely going in the right direction. And if the Leafs fall off this season, the Canucks, take a while to get going. Ottawa, within the next 5 years, could be that team. Who knows, right? So I appreciate it, Ali Dash. As always, you are my man. And Salty Wings and Avs fan, I appreciate your support. You're always in there. And commented on the same video talking about who will win the cup next in Canada. He says, my money's on the Leafs. All right. I could see the argument. NP22, yes. It's been a little while, but I know you have been commenting. Love to see my Rangers at the top of the Forbes most valuable list. Yes, they are there. Danny Light 3 says, as a Lightning fan, whom of course never liked the Panthers, it doesn't bother me one bit that the Panthers are next to last. It could be even possible. If they pull the Panthers out of Florida, that could eventually bolster Lightning revenue. Obviously, any Panther fan wouldn't agree, but you never know. I'm going to disagree with you, Danny Light, on that. The reason I disagree with you on that is you want to grow the game of hockey in Florida. And I hate to say, eliminating a local team like the Florida Panthers is not going to really do favors for the Lightning. Now, maybe you get... The chances are, if you're going to have fans in that state, most of them have already... That's like saying the same thing. If the Islanders were to leave, New York, would the Islander fans become Ranger fans? No. They're just going to support the team wherever they go. So, I think it's taking away the growth of hockey in Florida, which... Let's be honest, most of you probably want Florida hockey to grow. You want your hometown sport to grow, but you can't do that if you've basically cut half the teams, which would be 2, now down to 1. You've already limited your market just by moving out Florida. That's why I think the Panthers staying in Florida is a must, especially now that we've seen players like the Hughes. The Hughes has come up. Jack Hughes, first overall pick. He's from Orlando, Florida. Quinn Hughes, also from Orlando, Florida. They want to see players from non-traditional hockey markets play in the NHL. Perfect example, like the guys from Orlando, Florida, in Jack and Quinn Hughes. Maybe you didn't even know that, but those are things to keep in mind. So that's just something to remember. But I do appreciate the comment. And also, now you've taken away a rivalry. Now, it's been pretty skewed over the past couple seasons because of Tampa Bay's success. But the better that the Panthers are and the better that the Lightning are, it creates more of that rivalry. And I think that would be good for both teams. And it would be good for, the Sunrise State if we do see that happen. Where we see both teams competitive and very good hockey teams, I think that would be better. And it feels that much better for the Lightning when they beat the Panthers, when they're good, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. I'm not saying you're wrong, Danny Light, but I do slightly disagree with you. But I do appreciate the comment, brother. Moving on. Michael Coelho. Great vid. Thank you, Michael Coelho. You're always in there commenting. Here we go with all these comments about this whole Braden Holtby thing. Let's take a look. Denny Barlow on my video of Trevor Zagros being the top prospect. He says Kaprizov #1 period. Now, here's the thing, because you could say Alexi Lafreniere is the top prospect, but is he still a prospect at this point? He's going to be playing for the Rangers this season. Trevor Zagros will not be playing with the Ducks more than likely this year. He's up at BU this year. So, I don't know. I think the argument there, I don't know, man. I think if you're looking at players that will not be in the NHL, Kaprizov is going to be slated for the roster there in Minnesota. Is he still a prospect? I agree with you. I think he's a better player than Trevor Zagros. Potentially, I could be biting myself, for saying that in a couple of years. But Kaprizov at this point is projected to be the hyped prospect ahead of him. But again, he's going to be playing this season, so I don't know if he's still a prospect. But in terms of head-to-head Kaprizov or Zagros, right now, who would you take? Probably Kaprizov. But I don't consider him a prospect at this point. So I do agree with you, Denny Barlow. So Denny Barlow also said on the prospects, he thinks Rossi will make the team out of camp. I think that's something that could be argued. And he also made the argument the reason a lot of players aren't on the team for the Wild this year is because of Seattle and the expansion. There's more players that could be exposed. And that's something to keep in mind. I think a guy like Kalen Addison gets hurt by that. I don't think we'll see Addison with the Minnesota Wild this season because of that. I think it's one of those things because especially, the Minnesota Wild, they already have a ton of defensemen in the system or in their roster. Guys like Braden, Dumba, they have to protect all those guys now. And I think it's just more work they have to deal with. They're already, tied up with the Parise and Suter guys. They have to keep them around. So I think that's just something that we're seeing out there right now. So I do appreciate that. Denny Barlow. Let's take a look. All right. So Raj 2010 Abel says, that is a nice jersey. My reverse retro jerseys are still in transit, but I am expecting my first tomorrow. He got a couple jerseys. He got the Lightning, the Avalanche, the Kings, and is waiting on the Canadiens, Canucks, Panthers, and Rangers. Man. Raz 2010 Abel. Look at you, big man over here. You got a bunch of those jerseys. Much respect. Probably dropped a lot of money on that. So that's really cool, man. I do appreciate that. I did get 3 jerseys this year. So that's all I had in the budget. But that is awesome, man. That is really cool. So just a quick shout out to some other people that have been commenting over the past couple weeks. Skier Bigfoot, Cool Hat Luke, Borderland Hockey, Salty Wings and Avs fan, Donnell Weaver, Denny Barlow, Mike Garens, NP22, and as well as Ali Desh. So that is the guys that I mentioned in this video. Thank you guys so much for commenting. As always, we are so close, guys. We are at 754 last time I checked. The race to 1K subscribers is officially a go. And we are almost year 2 here at Goal Line Hockey. It's been pretty amazing. The ride has been going pretty well. And it's because of you guys watching these videos, enjoying the content. Obviously it's been tough here with not much to talk about, but we are making it work. And I can't grow without you guys watching these videos and sharing. Make sure to share these videos with your friends and family and whoever else, because that helps the channel grow as well. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey and want to see the latest news around the NHL, you know what to do. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe down below. Episode 8 here at the Goal Line Hockey Podcast is a wrap. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.